Alright, so we're back. Got back from work a few days ago, and so I've been working all week on the Miata, getting it ready for Belinda's Evolution Performance Driving School. That's going to be this coming Saturday. So we're driving it there. We were going to trailer it, but it's going to be too expensive to trailer it. So we pull our little trailer with the race tires on it and everything. So, but I think I got the Miata ready to go. Kind of went through it, lubed everything, flushed the cooling system, put a higher pressure radiator cap in it, a 180-degree thermostat, put a new overflow container in it so you can see in it because it was so dirty. I got a lot of trash out of the cooling system. Used the liquid moly in that, and it seemed to do a pretty good job. So I'm going to do the same thing in my car, probably the truck because it's really bad. So also went through, and we have those racing seat belts in it, but I wanted to have the option to be able to use the stock belt if we needed to, especially this weekend with the instructors getting in and out of the car. So I ordered some new hardware and come up with some spacers and everything to have the OE seat buckles installed, and also have the harness functional beyond it. So all you gotta do is flip the harness out of the way, put the seatbelt over your shoulder, and you're good to go on that. Try not to do that too much because these seats aren't really designed for those kind of belts, so it wears out the fabric in the edge of the seat. So, but I might get some sort of a cover for the belt to put over that to help that situation. Yeah, I think we're going to be good. We're going to run these Falcon RT660s this weekend. I think they got plenty of tread on them. We didn't really race that car a whole lot last year, and those tires, they handle the heat and they last a long time pretty good. So I think we'll be good on that. Thank goodness, because I didn't want to have to run her brand new tires. We got the new Bridgestone RE71 RSs for her car to go on after this weekend. So yeah, I think we'll be able to, I don't care if we cord those tires, the RT660s this weekend. We're just going to run them until they're done and then change those out, and she'll have school and a brand new fresh set of tires. So hopefully she'll feel some good things with these new tires. They feel pretty good on my car. I think they're going to be better than the Falcons at this point. I had a little bit of an issue with the coilovers in the rear. I had the mounts had bushings on them, and I modified them to have a bearing in them so they could pivot a little bit better, and those bearings must have been pretty cheap because they ended up wearing out. They had like a clunky noise in the back. I had a previous set of mounts that were aluminum that had a swivel cup on them, but they put the springs so far down and also the shock so far down that it was kind of out of a good range for it to operate really good, and they hung really low when it was up in the air. So I really loved that, but I figured out how to make those work without the swivel cup on them and use their bearing, which is a much better bearing. It's a bigger bearing. So I just pressed out their little fitting inside the cup and took the cup off and just used the fitting as a spacer in the bearing. So now those are on it, so there's no more clunky noise. I think those are going to last a lot longer. They're lighter because they're made out of aluminum, and I think those are going to be the long-term solution on it. And anything else on that car? I'm trying to think. I changed the oil and put some additive in the oil. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Seafoam. Put seafoam in the oil. I usually do that to kind of helps seafoam helps clean stuff, especially in the valve train and stuff like that. And this car really needs it because those lifters, I've had to take them out and clean them before. They get pretty nasty on the inside and tick like crazy. And it still takes a little bit. I think that's pretty common with these cars, but I put it in there as an insurance policy on that. And then yeah, I think that's it on that car. And then so now we've got that weekend, and then we got Charleston a week after that, and we got 2-week break, and then ZMAX, and then that will be pretty much my racing season until I come back in November. There'll be one race at Charlotte, and then I guess we're also supporting the Mustang week, so I might get a little bit of run in that day during Mustang week possibly, but I guess the main thing is just to help make some money for the club, SER club for that. So that'd be good either way, whether I get to run or not, that'd be fine. Yeah. So I guess onto my car. That's kind of what I got behind me. This is my old, I say old, it's not too old, Unbalanced Engineering Torque Arm. And I took it out because I was having problems with the car wheel hopping under braking. So, and it was pretty severe, especially after I got the front end, the new front end set up under the car. And I was able to just go so much faster. I found the limit of the back end of the car as far as how I installed this. So I went back to it's a standard style torque arm, UMI torque arm on the car, just because I know it works. But I do still have some acceleration issues with the car. I feel like this one accelerated better because it's such a short torque arm on acceleration. But the problem was on the braking, and I think the issue was when I installed this, I think it was too early on in my understanding of geometry and how all that kind of stuff works. So I installed it and I didn't really understand exactly how it was supposed to function, so I ended up installing it wrong. So you'll see you got, this is the main torque arm. This attaches to the rear axle, goes down, and it's got a little snubber right here that pushes up. So when you accelerate, the rear end twists up and it pushes against this snubber, which this is all attached to the body, and then it's triangulated into the roll cage. So on acceleration, it pushes up and accelerates, and you have a short torque arm, which is optimal for, like, drag racing and stuff like that. And in autocross, if you can make it work right with this type of setup. So that's fine. There was never really an issue with acceleration. It was always having issues braking on it. So the problem I had was on my car. Let me explain how it works. So under braking, the rear end is going to twist down. So this whole arm right here is going to go down. So the snubber is going to release from this. It's not going to be hitting it anymore because the rear end is rotating. The way you're looking at it, it's going to be rotating clockwise down. So what will happen is then the force applies to this rod, which is attached to the body. So in my car, this rod was angled upwards. So what was happening is when it was pushing the body of the car, it's actually trying to push the body of the car up. So it was doing the reverse of what it was supposed to do. It was pushing the body up, it was unloading the car instead of loading the car. So that was definitely a problem. That's why I was having such a wheel hop issue, because the braking instant center was going off into infinity because this thing is angled up into nothing, just going up and out of the car. So it wasn't really applying the force correctly to the car. So the problem was the way I installed this mount in the front. I had to install it kind of high to keep the safety loop for the torque arm from hitting stuff in the ground. So because I had to install it so high, that made this thing angled up, and it's not adjustable. Because you got the single point rear, so you kind of have to install it the way exactly right the first time to get it to work correctly, because there's no room in the transmission tunnel for this right here to go up any higher. So I've been thinking about it, how to make it work, and what I've kind of decided to do is we're going to install this back where it normally is and re-triangulate all this into the roll cage. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this mount off, and then I'm going to make multiple holes in this so that I can move this up and down. So it probably won't take a whole lot. Probably have maybe 3 or 4 different holes in it. I'll probably triangulate it back to here, and then figure out, get it all in, get this installed in the car, get everything in the car, and figure out where the arc needs to be for the holes, so I can just move it up and down without having to worry about adjusting it a whole heck of a lot. The problem with that is, once again, there's not a lot of room in the tunnel here for that to happen, because it was really close before, and it was a nightmare if you wanted to remove any of this stuff or adjust any of this with the drive shaft here and the tunnel being so small. It was such a nightmare to get to. So being that I want to move it up and be able to adjust that angle, I'll have to cut my transmission tunnel. So what I'll do is I'll basically cut a basic hole in it, and then I'm going to come out, make a big box, and kind of triangulate it off the tunnel, and have an access panel on the inside so that I can get to this, get all the way down to this, and get to this, all from inside the back of the car. So I'll have a panel out here, and it'll go up however high I need it to go to get it to clear, suspension movement and clear for the new bracket and everything. So it'll be very reasonably easy to adjust. I mean, I probably would have to unload the suspension a little bit to get, because there's a bushing that goes inside here that I don't have in right now, to move it on the fly. If I was at an event, I'd probably have to jack it up to do that. So once I get this in the right position, you can kind of see right now it's angled down to the front of the car. So what would happen is, like I said, the rear end under braking would go clockwise, so it's going to try and push down, which you're going to push on this. So if it's in this configuration where it's angled down and this is connected to the body, what the force of the braking and the rear end twisting is going to want to do, because this is angled down, it's going to want to push the body of the car, the whole chassis of the car down. So under braking, it's going to basically squat the whole car to the ground to make it brake even better. And that'll plant the car going into the turn and help it, settle in better into the turn. Obviously, it'll release it at some point through the turn, once you get back on the gas and stuff like that, but it should set with the shocks and stuff like that to set it down. The trick is getting this in the optimum position. You can also have it too high, and it will also cause wheel hop if you have it too high. So I emailed with the designer of this, and he said the best starting point is to get this angle from this point through here, and you want it to go all the way down. You want that intersect point from this to land at the base, at the center line of the front tires, at the base of the tire. So I'm going to try my best to get in the car when I get all this installed and see if I have enough room to measure with a tape measure or I have some long aluminum rod, kind of get a basic idea of where that center line would be between the front tires and how high this would have to go to get it to that point. And then I would have some adjustment down and some adjustment up to play around with that. But he said that's kind of the basic starting point of it. So that'll be where I'll set it up as my starting point. Have this angle and intersect with the bottom of the front tire, or the center line of the front tire is horizontally, but the basically intersect at the ground at the front tires. So so hopefully it'll work the way it should work. At least that's the plan. So we're going to try. It's definitely going to be some no going back things, when I have to modify the tunnel and everything. So, but the theory is good, and I know it works because there's other cars that run it that are very successful. Not too many people, because it is a little complicated to understand how it's all working, and then whether you're willing to make it more adjustable or not. A lot of people aren't willing to do that, so they have to adjust their ride height accordingly to make it function a little bit better and stuff. So yeah. And then you got some spacers on here you can adjust depending on the length of the braking link. That's what they call this, is the braking link, obviously, because it gets activated on the braking. And then this rod in here goes into it, so this thing moves in and out. So basically under acceleration it would be this a little excessive. It'd be kind of like it is now. There's a gap in here, and then the braking, that gap would reduce when the rear end's kicks forward, goes clockwise forward, and applies that force to this mount, which is attached to the roll cage. The other thing I'm going to do different that I didn't do before is this mount triangulates to the roll cage, so one goes up to the harness bar and the other one goes down to another horizontal bar to triangulate all that in. Mine was mounted above the transmission tunnel. So what I want to do with it this time, and I've seen some other people do this, and I have to re-look at the instructions, but they might say to do this, is you basically drop it down and cut another notch in the tunnel so that bar sits down into the tunnel, and you weld that hole on there so it's supporting the tunnel of the car to give it more structure there, so that doesn't flex, because you do have this attached there, and then it goes out and attaches to the outer part of the roll bar where it goes into the floor and everything. So I'm going to do that. I'll weld that on the inside and the outside. So it may mess around a little bit with where my hole is going to be, so I might have to play around with that as far as where this triangulates and everything. I can't remember how far back it goes, but it shouldn't be too bad. It's not too long. So yeah, this is the next big project for the car. Everything else I feel is pretty good. I feel like the back end of the car is what's I'm lacking right now, because the front grip's so good. I still haven't found the limit on how far I can push the front. It's trying to get the back end to catch up, and hopefully this is going to be the missing link, getting this Unbalanced Engineering decoupling torque arm installed in the car to help get better acceleration, and then also plant the car better going into the turns to just settle the whole thing in and stuff. The long torque arm is fine, but it's a fixed acceleration point and it's a fixed braking point. That braking point, because it's attached to the transmission, it's just a fixed single point. It doesn't move like this one does. This one, you have a different braking point and you have an acceleration point. So the acceleration point is very short for obviously good acceleration, and the braking link is long to prevent wheel hop, and then put more load on the front tires, and also to push that body of the car down a little bit harder and everything. So yeah, so it's gonna be a little bit of a big project, but luckily I can do it a little bit at a time between events. I can get everything in there and get this mount in there, because this will be fixed, and get it all triangulated in. And if I'm not done yet before it's time to run an event, I can put the other one back in and just remove all the inside stuff and leave this inner mount attached to the roll bar. And then when I'm done with that event, come back home, take it all back out, and then I can start figuring out where this is going to go and everything. But even if I do figure out where it's going to go and I just don't have time to get it all lined out, I can still obviously run the other torque on with that box that I'm going to have installed to give access to this here. So yeah, hopefully this is going to be a good answer for the car. Yeah, so looking forward to both ends of school. So I'll be there just as support, keep her tires cool, keep her pressures right, all that kind of stuff. Help her with any kind of video she might want to take, things like that. So hopefully this will take her to the next level. This is just phase 1 school. Unfortunately, they do phase 1 and phase 2 in the same day, so can't do both of them, unfortunately. So we'll have to go back and do phase 2 later on. But this should hopefully help her out. So I'm hoping there's some good STS possible drivers there. David Whitener was at the event that I did the school at, but I didn't really ride with him very much because I had my cam car and he wasn't really versed in those type of cars and everything, so I didn't really get to work with him a whole lot. I'm hoping to goodness he's there, because he has probably one of the fastest STS cars in the country, so he'll know how to teach her how to drive her car a little bit better and everything. I mean, it's obviously not going to be as fast as his car, because I'm sure his is probably pretty stripped out, and ours has air conditioning and power windows and all those amenities and everything, but it is what it is. So it's going to try and get her in there and get her to learn, get her an opportunity to learn, you know, a few more steps on how to be a little bit faster and stuff. And then maybe I'll learn a couple things along the way. It's been a while since I've been to the school, so maybe I'll go back again later on. They have a Evolution Driving School Challenge, I think is what they call it. It's kind of a refresher day event, so you can kind of relearn a few things that you maybe forgot. And it's also a bigger course, kind of a standard autocross day / national level kind of a course kind of thing. So maybe we'll try that one day. So we'll see. Yeah, actually I forgot. I got a few other things for my car. I got the new side ground effects for the front. The ones that were damaged in the accident. Thank goodness they got them. I couldn't find the molds for one of them, but they finally got those. So I think we'll be also working on that in the midst of working on this. I'd like to get that done, this ground effect part done, before I go to the next event, because it looks horrendous without having that ground effect on there. And then we'll see how everything else goes. You know, working on body work. I'm not really in a hurry. Just slowly kind of work on it as I go. And yeah, so yeah, I drove it yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, I think it was yesterday I drove it, and everything did good. I'm playing with the steering wheel placement a little bit. I took the 2-inch spacer off, put the 1-inch spacer on it, so it's a little further forward, but I still have that 3-inch dish to that new wheel. It's a little bigger in diameter, so I like it close, but it was almost like I thought it was too close because my arms were hitting the seat a little bit. So I put the 1-inch spacer on it, and I was able to slide my seat forward just a little bit, because I felt like I might have been reaching for the pedals just a tad. So it's just a little further forward, and yeah, so I'll probably go for a drive today and kind of see how that feels. Right now, sitting in it initially in the garage, it feels a little bit better. It feels like my arms are a little bit further away from the seat, so not touching that was kind of a pain in the neck. But aside from that, I think we're good to go. So anyway, anybody that's watching, I appreciate it, and I'll keep everyone posted on where this is going. So thanks for watching.